Dom Perignon costs $17 to make. You pay $300. After 9 years at LVMH, I'm exposing the internal data they hide. 11 champagne brands, ranked worst to best. Agree or disagree? Let me know below and hit subscribe to stay in the loop. 11. Nicolas Feuillat. If champagne had a participation trophy, Nicolas Feuillat would be its poster child. Mass-produced, focus-grouped into oblivion, engineered to offend nobody while inspiring even fewer.
The first sip tastes like dissolving a Granny Smith Jolly Rancher in seltzer, adding baker's yeast, then over-carbonating until your tongue goes numb. Metallic finish like licking an aluminum can. Zero complexity, just industrial sweetness. Here's the scam. This is France's best-selling champagne by volume, 5.4% market share, selling for 41 per bottle. That's 5,000 winemakers pooled into one cooperative, churning out millions of bottles. You're not drinking craftsmanship.
You're drinking a co-op's quarterly earnings report wrapped in French branding. International Wine Challenge gave it silver and called it a young wine which could age. Critic code for it's not ready now and won't improve later. Think that's harsh? The fraud gets exponentially more expensive. 10. GH Mum. Mum wraps itself in that red sash like a general who never saw combat. All ceremony, zero soul, banking on Formula One sponsorships to convince you speed equals quality. Mum hits your palate like lemon juice on a canker sore. Acidity sharp enough to etch glass. Green apple tartness bordering on vinegar, hollow where body should be. The bubbles feel scratchy, astringent, leaving your mouth puckered. It doesn't finish, it just stops. The punchline? In a 2022 blind tasting in New Zealand, Mum actually won against 9 other bottles at $60. But read what the tasters wrote. Tastes like perfume on skin, so sweet it's sour. Strong, fruity smell, slightly headache-inducing. I could picture myself drinking this at a fashion party with a bad hangover the next day. They crowned it winner because it was pleasing and sweet, not because it was good champagne. You're paying $55 to $65 for a hangover with branding. 9. Moët Chandon. Moët Chandon is the Marvel movie of champagne. Ubiquitous, engineered for mass consumption, forgotten 30 seconds after the credits roll. Moët tastes like apple juice left out for 3 weeks, then carbonated. Weird floral soap note clings like swallowed potpourri. Body so thin you could read through it. Finish disappears faster than New Year's resolutions. The numbers expose everything. Moët produces 30 million bottles annually. That's 1 bottle per second, every second, all year. Average retail price, $51. You're buying industrial-scale fizz, not champagne. LVMH, parent company, makes 64 million bottles across all brands, including Dom Perignon and Krug, meaning your luxury Moët shares the same factory as bottles costing 5 times more. Most Moët is non-vintage to cut costs, blending cheap years with decent ones. Roger Federer is their paid ambassador, but let's be real. He promotes a $6,000 limited edition Magnum he'll never drink. You get the $51 factory output. 8. Veuve Clicquot. Veuve Clicquot figured out orange branding and a widow backstory sell better than the actual liquid. It's the Instagram influencer posting sunset quotes while selling overpriced vitamins. First sip, underripe pear stored next to burnt brioche. Heaviness that feels clumsy, like adding richness with a hammer. Bubbles are coarse, gritty, scraping your tongue. Yeasty, doughy aftertaste like stale breadcrumbs stuck in molars. Bold? Sure. Balanced? Never. Veuve produces 18 million bottles per year, second only to Moët in industrial scale. Retail price? $65, $70. Wine Spectator scores? 87 to 91 points across vintages, meaning even the wine critics can't agree if it's very good or just good. Robert Parker's Wine Advocate gave it 87 points. That's the score you give when you can't say it's bad but won't call it great. Wine and Spirits gave the 2005 vintage 88 points. the same score as bottles costing $35. But here's the real tell. U.S. sales grew 34% between 2020 and 2025, while quality scores flatlined. Translation, their design team works harder than their winemakers. You're paying $65 for color theory and a tragedy. Still think price equals quality? The next bottles prove you've been conditioned to confuse hype with craftsmanship. 7. Armand de Brignac. Armand de Brignac arrives in a 15-pound bottle, beloved by rappers and hedge fund managers who need everyone to know they spent $600 on bubbles. It's the person who wears Gucci to the gym. Technically functional, but the point was never utility. Here's the twist. The liquid is actually good. Richer than most on this list, with layers of ripe stone fruit, toasted brioche, and creamy texture. But then you remember the numbers. Production cost, $13 per bottle. Retail price, $300 to $850. That's a 94% profit margin, the highest in luxury champagne. Made by only 8 people at a house established in 1763. Jay-Z bought it for $30 million in 2014 and grew sales from 60,000 to 500,000 bottles annually. You're not buying superior champagne. You're renting social status by the ounce. Even Forbes calculated it. You pay $300 for $13 of liquid and $287 of ego. The metal bottle weighs more than the credibility. Pause. Smash subscribe if you're ready to stop being a mark. Now let's meet the bottles people actually fight about. 6. Dom Perignon. Dom Perignon is what people who don't know champagne buy to impress people who do. And it works because the legend is bigger than the liquid. Here's the painful truth. Dom tastes expensive. Layers of citrus peel, almond paste, honeycomb unfold slowly. Bubbles refined and delicate. Finish stretches impressively. It's objectively well made, but it tastes exactly like you expect. A champagne that checked every exam box without raising its hand to ask questions. Technically flawless, emotionally empty. The numbers expose everything. Retail price $230 to $329 for standard vintages, up to $5,000 for rare editions. Production, 2 million bottles annually. That's 1 bottle every 16 seconds, all year. Owned by Moët Chandon, made in the same facilities as the 51 Moët you just saw at 9. Wine Spectator's 2025 blind tastings consistently rank Dom's 7th to 10th among prestige cuvées, despite being top 3 in price. You're paying $230 for a monk's name and reputation built in the 1960s. Perfect execution of a formula is still a formula. 5. Piper Heidsieck. Piper Heidsieck delivers measurable quality per dollar, but lacks the story that makes people fight in comment sections. It's the project manager who hits every deadline, stays under budget, gets 0 credit. Reliable. Criminally overlooked, Piper pours deeper gold, signaling intention. Fresh brioche, red berries, ginger spice. Structure with real architecture. Acidity cuts without sharpness. Decanter praised its real finesse and well-hewn palate. Retail, $50–$60. Translation, you're getting 92-point champagne at half the cost of 88-point competitors. It ranks here because it's objectively excellent, but doesn't make friends jealous. In a world where people buy bottles to photograph, competence is a liability. 4. Laurent Perrier. Laurent Perrier is what sommeliers order off the clock when they don't have to impress anybody. Clean, precise. Proof you can nail fundamentals without needing tragedy. Laurent Perrier tastes like someone took champagne seriously without taking themselves seriously. Bright citrus, white flowers, whisper of chalk dust reminding you there's actual terroir. Fine, persistent mousse creates creamy texture without cloying. Finishes with saline snap, the ghost of an oyster shell, leaving your mouth refreshed, not exhausted. Every element in conversation. Nothing dominates, nothing hides. Retail, $40 to $50 for La Cuvée Brut, $75 for Cuvée Rosé, $200 to $290 for Grand Sequel.
Industry insiders report Laurent Perrier has the highest repeat purchase rate in the $60 to $80 segment, meaning people who try it come back. Annual production significantly smaller than LVMH brands, prioritizing quality over volume. You're drinking what professionals drink with their own money. It ranks fourth because excellence doesn't always photograph well.
3. Teininger is proof elegance doesn't need to announce itself. It simply exists, unbothered by trends, unmoved by market pressure, floating above noise like expensive incense smoke. Teininger smells like a patisserie at dawn. Butter, flour, something floral you can't name. First sip, weightless but not weak. White peach, acacia honey, limestone. Bubbles feel less like carbonation, more like texture stitching flavors together. Finishes with lemon zest brightness that doesn't linger aggressively or rush away. It simply fades, like a conversation ending at the right moment. Still family-owned while competitors sold to conglomerates. Production, 5 million bottles annually. Careful scale, not industrial. Wine Spectator ratings, 89 to 97 points across vintages, with comps to champagne regularly scoring 95 plus. Retail, $50 to $60 for Brut Reserve. Only 150,000 to 300,000 bottles of their prestige comps de champagne made yearly. Compare that to Dom Perignon's 2 million. You're tasting philosophy, not portfolio optimization. It ranks third because while it achieves near perfection, the next two push beyond excellence into questions. 2. Bollinger. Bollinger doesn't care if you're ready. This is champagne with a spine, built for steak and arguments, refusing to apologize for having more personality than your last 3 relationships combined. Bollinger hits like a heavyweight punch disguised as a handshake. Aroma, aggressive, toasted sourdough, roasted apple, walnut oil, something almost savory. First sip has weight, shocking compared to lighter styles, texture coating your mouth like claiming territory. Dried fig, gingerbread, citrus peel, layering without muddling. Tight, forceful bubbles propel the finish with tannic grip making you want food immediately. This is not celebratory champagne. This is serious. Bollinger's Special Cuvée ages 3 years minimum, twice the legal requirement. Most houses do 18 months. James Bond's official champagne for 45 years, not by sponsorship accident, but because it matches his worldview. Functional, unapologetic, slightly dangerous. Retail, $70 to $85. 2025 limited edition commemorates both the 45th anniversary with 007 and the 40th anniversary of A View to a Kill. You're tasting patience and conviction sacrificed for character. It ranks second because it masters everything champagne can be while respecting what champagne should be. Only one house goes further, not by being better, but by being braver. 1. Poe Roger. I'm placing Poe Roger at 1 to humiliate every person who spent $200 on a bottle they chose because a rapper held it. This is what champagne tastes like when legacy matters more than logo. Poe Roger opens like a memory you've never experienced, impossibly fine bubbles feeling less like carbonation. More like champagne whispering secrets. Aroma is brioche and white flowers, but underneath there's this mineral seam, like cold stone on a summer morning. The palate has a devastating balance. Richness without heaviness, brightness without aggression, complexity without showing off. Green apple, lemon curd, almond cream, chalk. The finish doesn't end. It transforms, shape-shifting from citrus to cream to saline minerality. Winston Churchill drank 42,000 bottles of Pol Roger over 57 years, roughly 2 bottles per day. Not sponsorship, not marketing. He actually drank it. When he died in 1965, Pol Roger printed black borders on every bottle shipped to the UK as tribute. They created Cuvée Sir Winston Churchill from only the best vintages, matured minimum 10 years. Production, 1.5 million bottles annually. Compare, Moët makes 30 million, Dom Perignon, retail, $60 to $75 for standard, $200 to $300 for prestige.
Pole Roger ranks first not because it's louder, pricier, or more famous. It ranks first because it understands champagne is not jewelry, not investment, not flex. It's fermented grape juice that, when made with obsessive care and zero compromise, turns an ordinary Tuesday into something you remember decades later. You're drinking what happens when a house chooses quality over quarterly earnings.
Drop into the comments and tell me which ranking destroyed you emotionally. Tell me why your favorite bottle that didn't make the list deserves a spot. Defend your choices. I'll be there, responding to every single argument with facts you won't like. We're ranking bourbon next week, and I promise you, the bottle your grandfather swore by is sitting at number 9. Subscribe now.